folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your post-race edition for the 2019 Italian Grand Prix. And what a day if you are Tifosi. What a day if you are Ferraristi. What a day if you are a fan of Charles Leclerc. 1 week on from his debut Formula One victory, which was tinged with sadness. A day that is tinged with nothing but joy and adulation and the raptures of a young man on the top step of the podium in front of an adoring crowd bedecked in red. First time for Ferrari since 2010 that they've stood on top of that famous podium here in Monza, and what a race. He had to fight for it after taking pole position yesterday. He had Lewis Hamilton breathing down his neck, and he fought a little bit over the edge at times. Potentially, he got the black and white warning flag from the FIA. Don't do that again, as he squeezed Lewis Hamilton a little bit into the second chicane. But Lewis was always there after their pit stops. Lewis was on the medium tyre, Charles was on the hard, and you felt that Lewis had the chance, had the better car underneath him, certainly had the better tyres underneath him. Was putting him under pressure. Charles was locking up, running a little bit deep. It was almost like Hamilton was just toying with the little mouse, just patting him, just playing with him, ready to go. But then Lewis went deep at turn one. Lewis fell down to third. Then it was up to Bottas to come in and make his move, but he never could. Charles had it at that point. He had the win, and he had the glory of all Italy. What a day for Charles Leclerc. Race winner for the second time in 2 weeks, most importantly here in front of an adoring Tifosi. Second for Valtteri Bottas, and third for Lewis Hamilton.
Great battle with Lewis across the whole race. How was it to race such a great champion?
Well, it was crazy. Obviously, for me, it was very difficult in the car. I had to stay on it from the first lap to the last lap. Lewis doesn't often do mistakes, so he was just right behind me from the first lap to the end, and I had to stay on it, which we did. So I'm very happy about it.
And a Ferrari driver winning at Monza, how does it feel?
Well, there are no words to describe this feeling. I mean, I think it's going beyond my dreams. A podium with so many people, so many red people, singing exactly the same thing, and just cheering for the same color and for the same team feels absolutely amazing. It's an incredible day.
Pretty exciting end to the race for you there. The win even looked on the cards. Can you talk us through how it went for you?
Yeah, it was getting pretty close at the end, and I was trying everything I could, but it wasn't enough today. They are so quick on the straights that we need to be so close on the final few corners to actually get any kind of chance, and I never got to a distance that I could really try to overtake, and every time I got close enough, started to struggle quite a bit on the braking with blocking the front wheels. So yeah, just not quite enough, which is a bit annoying, but I tried, so no hard feelings.
You ended up, I think, going 8 laps longer than Lewis. At that point, did you think you'd be able to come back and have stronger tyres at the end of the race and maybe pull yourself forward a little bit?
Yeah, I knew towards the end of the race it's going to be the best bet for me, and so it was. But yeah, it's just a shame we couldn't turn that into a win. But anyways, I think from my side it was good strategy, I think, on my car. So obviously happy with that.
Cracking battle out there with Charles today. You gave it everything. Can you just talk us through your race?
Yeah, good race. No real massive issues. Just weren't quick enough today, unfortunately.
Towards in the closing stages, you pitted and got the fastest lap. Was that kind of at least damage limitation, and you got something extra out of this race?
Yeah. Second, I followed so closely for so long, trying to get by and just run out of tyres. So, wasn't meant to be today, but they did a great job.
So that's your top three. Charles Leclerc, race winner. Behind him, Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton behind them. Fourth and fifth for Renault. A surprisingly good result for the team at the end of a difficult European season, let's say, that's been slightly up and down. Great haul of points for them as McLaren faltered again. Hugely important for the championship, hugely important as we move on to the latter stages of this season.
That was your best race since you returned to Renault? Congrats.
Thanks. Definitely best result. I just heard team's best result since 2008, a fourth and a fifth. So that's what someone told me, but I'm pretty sure that sounds about right. Very happy. I felt like last weekend was a little bit of a shame. I felt like we had more pace to show, and yeah, it was a shame not to get a result, which I thought we could have got big points. So coming here this weekend, similar style circuit, low downforce, you know, I did expect to make up some of those lost points. But to get fourth, maybe exceeded a little bit the expectation, but very happy. And I think particularly the power unit guys, you know, Viri, every year we come here, it's not a circuit they expect to do too well on, you know, and this year they made big gains with the engine, and I think it's a statement getting that kind of result here in Monza. So very proud for them and happy for them. They should be proud of themselves, and I think they deserve a glass of champagne tonight.
Overall, I just thought that the team, everything kind of went quite well. The strategy was good. You got the VSC at the right time, I thought, as well. And I guess, was it just one of those days where you felt everything went right?
Yeah, we were very close to pitting when the first VSC came out for Carlos, I think. And I feared we were going to get done over by that. I never really know how it works, especially in the race. It's hard to calculate during kind of the heat of it all. But then we got the second VSC, and that seemed to help us. So yeah, in the end it was smooth. I think a few things definitely fell our way today, but ultimately I don't think it changed the result. I really believe we had this pace all weekend, and yeah, a bit of extra help from VSC or not, I think we still would have ended up where we were. So very pleased.
That was one great start, or at least opening a few laps. How was that? Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, it was good start off the line. It's again got the outside line in turn 2, past Daniel there, and then had a really good exit of 2. So I really got a really sweet toe of Sebastian. Went from his toe to a toe from Mercedes. So it was one of those laps that was seamless and sweet, coming together very nicely. Got Seb at the outside of turn 2, so that was sweet. And then after that, first stint was a bit difficult with the car. Not feeling the pace that great. Daniel came through, and then he was sort of towing me around a bit. We were distancing ourselves from the other midfielders, but no, very strong team result, 22 points. That's pretty big for us. So very, very pleased.
What do you think it was about this circuit that suited you guys? Because you did just look particularly strong across the whole weekend.
Yeah, I mean, also looking at Spa and here, both massively power tracks, and I think on that side the team has really made a huge step forward since last year. So well done to them. Credit to the guys at Viri that delivered this power unit. We certainly don't have to hide there anymore. And I think also a little bit the track, track specific, short corner durations. A couple of big traction events. I think that sort of characteristic probably also helping a bit.
Now, today was always going to be a difficult day for Max Verstappen, starting at the back of the grid with an engine change, and because he didn't set a time in qualifying, was always going to be at the back of whoever also had engine changes. So the focus was on Alex Albon in only his second race with the team, and even more so after Max Verstappen had a little bit of a moment down into turn 1, duffed his front wing, had to come in and change it at the end of the first lap. And yet at the flag, Alex Albon is P6 and Max Verstappen is P8, just a couple of seconds down the road. How did that all come to pass? We talked to both of them. Albon had a pretty good tussle with Carlos Sainz and ultimately went off the track in that. It was a scrappy day, let's say, from Albon. Verstappen got his head down and pushed through it. But yeah, certainly I think Albon was probably expecting a bit more from today. Verstappen, though, did all he could.
Points from the back of the grid. We saw right at the start that you had some front wing damage, but didn't see how you got it. So can you talk us through that and the rest of your race?
Breaking into turn 1, so I was just following. Suddenly everything got bumped up. So I wanted to turn to the left to avoid it, but I still clipped, I think, Serge's rear tire. So a bit of front wing damage. We pitted, but then I think the race was still on. So I got past quite a few cars. But then when we pitted, we got unlucky with the virtual safety cars. So like 3-4 cars which I already overtook, then ended up again in front of me. So it was very painful. You take more out of your tires than you want to. But then I still had a few cars ahead of me I could see where I was catching up to. So that was all not too bad. But then I got stuck behind Perez again. Just couldn't get by on the straight. They were really quick, and that was it.
How encouraged were you by the Honda power, particularly at a circuit like this?
It was not bad. I think we made some steps forward, but we clearly, of course, need to keep working hard to improve. But for me, at the moment, I'm just looking forward to have a normal weekend, and hopefully that will start in Singapore, starting more up front, and just have a bit more of a fun race.
So that was quite an eventful race out there for you. Can you just talk us through it?
Yeah, busy one. Didn't have a great start. And then kind of had to fight my way back. Maybe we didn't have quite the straight line speed that we would like, so a lot of the moves I had to try to do in the corners, and maybe a bit too optimistic with Carlos. I thought the move was on, and it kind of was, but side by side in this one's a bit tricky, and just lost a bit too much grip going that wide. Then we had a fight with Magnussen, I think it was, had a 5-second penalty. So we finished P6, maybe not where we should have been, but we knew the track was going to be difficult for us. Singapore's next, a few more corners in there, so it should be good.
I guess overall though, 2-6 to start your Red Bull career is pretty encouraging overall.
I'm quite happy with it. I think there's more to come and more to learn, but otherwise it's a good start, and hopefully I can pick it up come towards the end of the season.
It had been looking like a strong day potentially for Racing Point, given that Lance Stroll found himself very, very well in the points in the early running. But then Sebastian Vettel spun, and in bringing himself back onto the track, took out Stroll, who spun, and then in coming back to the track, took out Pierre Gasly. He didn't get the same severity of punishment as did Sebastian Vettel. He just got a drive-through for his troubles, but it was still a questionable moment for him. For Sergio Perez, though, a strong drive, a battling drive into the points, and a P7 at the close.
Out there, I thought Racing Point's pace looked pretty decent. How was that race for you?
Yeah, I think we managed to recover well from a difficult weekend up to now. Good overtakings out there and good pace, good strategy from the team, some good timing with the virtual safety car, and it was just a race, especially the last 20 laps, 15 with Verstappen so close to us. We just had to push as much as we possibly can.
How encouraged are you generally about the package? Because it's been a difficult weekend up until this, and you got everything right basically today.
Yeah, everything right for us. We managed to recover very well. So now I'm optimistic going forward for Singapore. Hopefully the upgrade we bring will be able to put us back in contention to be able to score big from now till the end of the year.
That's also a home race for Alfa Romeo, but it hadn't started incredibly well for them. Kimi Raikkonen crashed in Q3 yesterday, and therefore, with the damage to his car and the changes he needed to make, had to start from pit lane. Antonio Giovinazzi, therefore, was promoted into the top 10 on the grid, and Julie came home in the points. It was a measured and mature race from a driver who has struggled on occasion this year to hold it all together, but he did beautifully, drove brilliantly to bring home 9th place for Alfa on home soil.
Unbelievable. I think it was a great day. I think for Italy in general, with the Ferrari victory and my 9th place. So I think I'm really happy, and I need to say thanks to them because I had a full support from already Wednesday on Milan until today. A lot of my friends was there, my family was here, so just a great weekend, and I think we need to keep working this way, and because the car is doing fantastic job, so we need to keep working and still achieve a good result.
It's obviously been a difficult season, so how encouraging is it for you personally to get such a good result on home soil, and at this stage of the season when we're looking to 2020 and drives and the seats?
I don't want to focus too much. I think if I'm doing well, nobody can take my seat. I think what happened in Spa, until last lap I was P9. Now here again P9. We need to just be on the points. I think in every race, Singapore will be a completely different track with high downforce street track. So we need to see how the car will perform there. But I'm sure we can have also good result there.
It's obviously been 2 good circuits for you, even though the result in Spa didn't quite work out. Do you feel you've turned a corner somewhat?
Hopefully, like I say, Singapore will be a different track, but I like street track, and I think the car was not too bad on the high downforce level. So I'm positive also we can have a good result in Singapore.
Spa was a tremendous disappointment to McLaren. Carlos Sainz not even really starting the race, and Lando Norris retiring with 1 lap remaining. So arriving here, there were some hopes that they would have a better weekend, certainly for Carlos Sainz, who found himself again well within the points and hunting down the Renaults. Lando Norris had to start at the back and was charging through to try and get home in the points as he'd had an engine change. As it turned out, they became the masters of their own undoing. Unfortunately, right front wheel for Carlos Sainz wasn't secured when he left the pit, thus undoing all of the team's and his good work. Lando Norris, though, fought through for the final point of the day in P10, but with a brilliant points haul for Renault, McLaren will be incredibly disappointed at the close of these final 2 European races.
It could have been a little bit better. The VSC caught us out a little bit, so if we waited a few more laps, it could have been a good thing for us, because we boxed 3 or 4 laps before the first VSC, as I was behind Perez, and we managed to undercut him very briefly. If he did box when there was no VSC came out, so we managed to stay ahead, but I don't think we had the pace to overtake him on track. Even Max couldn't overtake him, and he was much quicker, so it was going to be tough. I think we kind of knew coming into it. We were hoping to be a bit better than yesterday, but it wasn't. I felt like I was still struggling a little bit for myself, but also a little bit with the car, so I'm happy with a point. At least I got one, so it could have been a little bit worse, so I'm still happy with the end result.
So heading to Singapore, a very different track, I guess you're going to be encouraged for you guys, and the car will suit the circuit a little bit more.
I mean, there's still work to do with the car. I think even here we didn't expect to be super strong, but we didn't expect to be bad or anything, and I think we were where we thought we would be. But there's still some areas which are obvious which we need to improve. So whether Singapore is attractive to our car, I don't know. But Bahrain, the last night race went well, so I'm hoping the next one will.
Disappointing day for Toro Rosso. Both drivers felt they could have got points in today's Grand Prix, but Danny Kvyat wouldn't see the checkered flag, and Pierre Gasly got caught out in the incident that fell with Vettel and Stroll and all of that nastiness and silliness at the Ascari chicane. Without that, he felt he could have been in the points. Kvyat felt he had a car underneath him, good enough for 6th.
I can only say it was going to be an amazing race. I think fighting was in front of Red Bull Racing at that stage, and P6, P5, something like that was on the table for us, and very disappointing. This is our sport, unfortunately. Sometimes they can do a great job, and sometimes something in the car gives up, and you have to pull over.
At the moment, do you know what was wrong, and at that point, did you think P6 was possible?
Definitely. I was anyway same lap times with Albon. And then I think I had fresher tires, so I'm confident would be able to keep him behind. So a very, very big shame, but I don't know exactly the reasons yet.
And so to the bewildering tale of Haas, another hard weekend for them after it had looked like it was coming towards them in practice. Friday had looked more promising, Saturday started to go off the boil a touch, but Kevin Magnussen certainly thought, for one, that he was going to have a better day on Sunday. Didn't turn out that way for Kev. He retired from the race. Romain Grosjean spent more time in the pits than I think his pit crew did today. Unbelievable number of pit stops. Difficult to understand the day for him, and he was not a happy camper.
I think today was very complicated. I got a hit from behind into turn 1, pick up the anti-stall. I had to pull the clutch, release the clutch, and then by the time I was doing everything, all procedure, I was through the polystyrene blocks and was dead last after the first corner, so it was not easy. Then I tried to push to come back. I had a spin in Ascari corners, came to the pit. I had to remove a fair bit of aero balance because the car was very, very much on the nose. We did it and the car was still overbalanced, so we pitted again and removed 1% of aero balance, and the car was still overbalanced, so definitely something went wrong on the car today. We just need to analyse everything because the balance we had is definitely not what we had during the rest of the weekend, so a lot to analyse.
Williams had always expected this to be one of, if not the most difficult weekend, certainly for some time, if not of the season for them, given the huge amounts of drag that they have on their car and the requirement at this track to have as little drag as humanly possible. That said, it wasn't as terrible as I think they'd feared. Robert Kubica came home last of the pack, but George Russell came home in P14. A good result for him. Sebastian Vettel only a couple of seconds up the track. I mean, of course, Seb had a lot of penalties and a lot of issues in the race today. But still, I don't think it was quite as bad as Williams had feared, and maybe that in and of itself is reason for the team to be cheerful.
It definitely showed good pace. It's just a bit of a shame at the start, just with our straight line speed we just sort of got murdered on the straight, but as soon as I was in clear air the pace was really strong, relatively really strong. I think we only finished about 35 seconds behind P10, which for us at this stage is pretty decent going, especially with what happened at the start, so some positives to take away.
How encouraging is that, given that this was going to be a difficult circuit for you, expecting, and that gap is, like you said, encouraging?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we're quite confident that this is probably one of the worst 3 circuits for us. So I think it showed we did a good job with everything else in our control, with the setup, with the tyres, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely some positives to take, but obviously still not exactly where we want to be.
We can't leave today without talking about Sebastian Vettel. Lost a position at the start to the Renaults, gained it back, then spun coming through the Ascari complex. His return to the track was considered bad enough to give him a 10-second penalty. A lot of people think it could have been even worse than that. The 10-second penalty is, by the way, the harshest penalty that the stewards can give that isn't a black flag. That's disqualification from the race. It was undoubtedly dangerous. And does it speak to a deeper frustration, perhaps, in Seb, be that the spin, be that the return? Who knows? He was expected to lead this team. He was expected to be their number one. And yet it's Charles Leclerc who has 2 race victories under his belt, while his older, more experienced 4-time world champion teammate looks genuinely like he's struggling at the moment. Let's talk to Seb about what can only be a very disappointing day for him at his team's home race.
Sebastian, I guess it was just one of those days in the office.
Well, not a particular good one, no.
Can you kind of just talk us through from the beginning, really? Because early on it looked like you had good pace, and then when you had that spin, can you talk us through what happened there?
Well, not that much to talk through. I lost the rear going in and then lost it even more. So I had a couple of snaps the lap before, but always could catch it. So yeah, came a bit by surprise, but obviously it's my mistake.
And then for the rest of the race, was it just kind of damage limitation?
For a safety car, which didn't come, so yeah, that's it.
And that is about it for Paddock Pass here in Monza. When we came back from the summer break in Spa 1 week ago, all the headlines, all the expectation was on Ferrari. Will they win these last 2 European races? And of course everybody said, oh, we've heard all that before, and you've made those predictions before, and we've heard it since the start of the season, and it never came true. And then they were fast in practice, and everyone said, yeah, but Mercedes are just hiding their hand as they have done at every race so far this year, don't believe it. But then Ferrari got pole, and then Ferrari got the win, and they did it twice. And maybe it's that the Ferrari that we expected to turn up in Australia finally turned up in Spa, because they got everything right. They did everything right. They played it perfectly. At least one side of the garage did. And that ultimately is the only disappointment I think Ferrari will take from the last 2 races, is that the guy they'd expected to lead their charge hasn't. But maybe that will fill them with some joy and some satisfaction, because they have, on the side of the garage that was expected to be learning from the master, they have this potent force. A 2-time now Grand Prix winner, Charles Leclerc, was the prince and is quickly becoming the king at Ferrari. What that does to the team dynamic for the remainder of the season, only time will tell. Did Charles deliberately mess up quali here on Saturday on that last run to deny Sebastian a shot at pole? There's a suggestion in some quarters here in the paddock as we leave the weekend. Has that forever altered, shifted the dynamic of their relationship, potentially ruined their relationship? Maybe it's too early to tell. Maybe there's no truth to that kind of suggestion. What is true is that Charles Leclerc is coming on fast and is coming on strong. But Max Verstappen still sits ahead of both Ferrari drivers in the Drivers' Championship table. Lewis Hamilton still leads that World Championship table. How will things change over the coming races? Can't wait. Singapore is next in 2 weeks' time. Join us there and join us then. For now, though, from us here in Monza, we'll see you later.